Daniel here with the Virtual Robotics Studio, and it is now time to start building the pieces that we're going to need to build other pieces. So there are a bunch of polycarbonate pieces that are needed for the hopper and the bottom of the hopper, which is part of, I guess, the intake ramp. They end up combining together before we put them in the robot. So we're going to make those pieces. Now, on this robot, we had to make a few changes to the hopper size and hole locations in order to make it fit inside of the new dimensions with the Swerve chassis again. Because we used the Swerve modules, it pushed the robot wider. This robot's 30 inches wide instead of, I think, 27 or 27 and a half, something like that, for KitBot. So because it's wider, it is now too long. The hopper is too long, so we have to cut it down a little bit. So there are two different panels that made up the bottom of the hopper. So one of them was the bottom hopper panel. That was KB26004. And then there was also a battery access panel. That was a flap that was able to move. That was KB26014. We've combined those two pieces into our new SKB26004 combined. This basically connects those two pieces together, adds a few extra holes to be able to zip tie that in the appropriate places to the other panels, and it does not need to move. So what we found was on this frame, because we have a little bit larger space to mount the electronics, and the frame also sits a little bit lower than the Animark chassis, we're able to kind of slide that battery in laying down and take it out without having to move the back panel on the hopper to get the access to the battery. So because of that, we combined those two panels. The length of the two panels combined also shrank just a little bit. We had to shrink everything by about ½ an inch. I think it might have been actually ½ an inch plus a 1/16, something like that, in order to make it for sure fit inside the frame of the robot. We left a little bit of a margin for error, so if you are a little sloppy manufacturing things, you should still not be sticking outside of the robot perimeter, which is not allowed. You could make it a little bit longer than the numbers we have shown if you are very confident in your ability to hit the numbers exactly and to make sure the rest of your frame goes together square. You might be able to get back a ¼ inch. I don't know that that's worth it. Like a ¼ inch longer on your hopper when the balls are 6 inches, I don't think it makes a difference. All right, so for SKB 26005, that's our version of KB 26005. These are the side panels, the hopper side hopper panels. These also we shrank down. I think they used to be 15 inches across. We're going to be doing ours at 14.375, so I guess 5/8 inches shorter. Again, same thing. If you want to try to push the bottom panel and make the bottom panel a ¼ inch longer, you would make this 14.375 also a ¼ inch longer. But again, I don't know that that's worth it. So other than that, I think we added one extra hole to this panel as well, just so we have one extra hole to connect the new part of the bottom panel that is no longer a flap. And then also we're going to be doing SKB 26006, which is, again, the updated version of KB 26006. That's the back hopper panel. This one is exactly the same size and shape. No changes at all there. The side holes are all the same, but we did add a row of holes on the bottom that we can use to zip tie to connect this to the bottom panel that we're making. So before it was a flap, so it was held together by some Velcro straps or some hook and loop straps so that you could unhook and loop it and fold it up. We don't have to fold it, so we're just going to go right to zip tying it in place. All right, so let's get these 3 pieces made. Well, actually 4, because we got to make 2 sides. But before we do, let's give another special thanks to Argosy. First, Cross the Road Electronics, West Coast Products, Aramco, and Team 302, Lake Orion High School, for hosting our studio. All right, now, I had what was left over of a 4x4 sheet of this 1/8 inch polycarbonate. Again, 0.118, 3 millimeter, 1/8 of an inch. Any of those numbers are going to be fine anywhere around there. But what I've cut out does not leave enough room for me to fit all of these pieces. So I have one extra second piece here. And if you kind of combine these together, I'm right around that 48. I'm like 48.5 inches long. And then these are 24 inches wide. So if you have that 24 by 48 inch sheet, you'll need that for all 3 of these hopper pieces. And then you'll need a second, probably, unfortunately, 24 by 48 sheet for the belly pan, right? Because that was 30 inches wide, 30 by 17.25. You might be able to find a smaller sheet like I did here. And mix and match to make it fit on a slightly smaller amount of polycarb. But essentially, yeah, you need a 2x4 inch sheet for these 3 pieces, and you'll need extra for that belly pan. All right, let's see. First thing is, I think the SKB 26005, so this is the side hopper panels. We need 2 of these. They have this diagonal cut in the middle, but that diagonal cut is the same. So if I take this and I rotate it around, it'll match up with this. So we can make one diagonal cut and have 2 pieces correct on either side of that diagonal cut. So I think these 2, if we stick them together like that, we'll need the width of this piece, which is 14.375. And then we'll need the tall side here, which is 13.119. Okay, whatever, 13 1/8, say 125. And then this side is 8.919. So let's just estimate if this were 9 inches and this were 13 1/8, we would need 22 1/8 inches. Plus, you lose a little bit for cuts. But that should be less than 24 inches. So I think the first step is if we take one of these pieces, either this one or the other one, and we take that 14.375 and we rip a section of that 24 inches long, we'll be able to make 2 of these out of it. Now I think I'll make my side panels out of my small piece that's on the side here, because I think they fit fairly well on that, and I need more space for the other 2 to go together. So let's just do a layout on this to make sure they fit, and kind of mark it up, and then we'll mark the other piece up, make sure I have enough plastic for all the pieces, then I'll go and start cutting. All right, so first thing is, what we want to do is we want to have a section of this that is 14.375 inches long. So 14 3/8. So 1, 2, 14 3/8 right here. So it's just to the edge, the line should disappear. And if I do another one somewhere down here, we can do another 14 1, 2, 3/8. So this is kind of like what my first cut would be. And again, if my square is square, everything should line up, and I should just be able to mark that all the way across. I guess also if the piece here was cut straight. All right. I'll believe that it's probably square, and I marked a little bit off. Okay, and if this is a little bit long, that's okay. If it's a little bit short, that's also okay. One of the cool things about this design is since the edges are held together by, all right, looks like I'm a little off on one side, I'm good on the other, we'll measure it, but since the edges are held together by zip ties, if the alignment isn't perfect, it's still gonna attach together. So you can have a decent amount of error here and be okay. Let's see. So the inside of that line is maybe a 1/16 too long. And on this side, it is 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So either my square is not square or the edge isn't good. Let's just reline that up. So my marks were correct. And it was my bad trusting the square instead of the marks. All right. That looks good. I think it's still like, my line is super thick, but I think it's still the edge of the line, the inside edge of the line is going to be where we want to be. Yeah. And yeah, looks good. All right, so we make this cut. What's left is going to be the right width for this piece. Then what we can do is we can mark one of our angles here, or one of our diagonals. Then we'll cut it, and then on the other side we'll mark it afterwards once we know where the cut ended up. All right, so couple other notes on this. Looks like we've got radiuses on every corner, which is 1/8 of an inch radius, so 1/4 of an inch like circle. And that's just to not have sharp edges. So it does say optional, you can do that, you don't have to. But the number we're looking for is this dimension is to where the corner would have been if it were not radiused. So my long side is that 13.119. So we can do that on our choice, either side. I guess I'll do that right along this edge of my material here. And 13.119 is not a number that's going to be on your tape measure. it is basically 13 and an eighth. Technically slightly less than 13 and an eighth, but honestly, my pen marking is not accurate enough for that anyway. All right, so this is the long side of this piece, and then the short side of this piece, we'll do it on the other side. This is going to be 8.919. So 8.9. So a 16th of an inch is 0.0625. So we're just under 15 sixteenths. So we need like 8 and just a little bit less than 15 sixteenths here. So 8, and the last line is my 15 sixteenths, and we just go kind of in between that and the eighth line, which would be 875. So somewhere around there. Okay. So those two are the first 2 points. We want to connect them together. So we'll see how well we can do that. So right on the edge there. Oh, I'm way off. So right on the edge there, right on the edge there. All right, so that is, I think, roughly the panel. We can double check that I didn't do anything silly again. So 8 and, okay, just about 50. So I want to keep the line on that side. On this side, 13 and an eighth, I want to keep the line. So that's perfect. Basically, it's the outside of my line is going to work for that. This one is the inside of the line. And then what we want to do really quickly is just make sure there is room for another one of these, right? Like rotated around on the other side or flipped and flipped on the other side. So on the short side, we need at least 8.119 inches, and we've got like 11. And then on the long side, we need 13.119. Oh, sorry, 8.9. So we need about 9 inches on this side. And again, we've got almost 11. And on this side, we need 13 and an eighth, and we have almost 15, or we have just over 15. So there will be plenty of room for us to do the next piece. We'll end up with a cut line somewhere around here probably, right? We'll measure that, of course, after we cut, because when we cut, we're going to take some material out, which is going to change the size of this piece, because we're going to line our saw blade up to keep the one that we marked in the right spot. And you can now, when they're laid out, you can add the label so you know what piece it's supposed to be. So this is going to be SKB 26005. Side hopper panel, and then this one is also going to be an SKB 26005. All right, so those two fit on there, and we have not too much waste. Now, ideally, if you have one continuous sheet, like this extra material will still be attached to your main piece. Unfortunately, mine are 2 separate ones, so that's not going to work out. Let's go to the other piece now, and I'll leave the drawing with that. Now, on this one, we have to somehow fit both our combined SKB 26004 and it would be KB 26014 combined into one piece here, and our back hopper panel, which is our SKB 26006. And these ones are both the same width. So this one, edge to edge, is 17.625. This one, in one of the dimensions as well, is 17.625. And then they're just different lengths. This one's 17 and an eighth long. It's almost square. This one is 8.75 long. So if we have a strip here that is 17, wait, so let's see. We need to be able to add 17.125 plus 8.75. So we need 25, almost 26 inches. This is 24 inches long on my short side here. You can ignore my little extra thing. So since this is 24 inches long, I can't do the combined 2 of them this way because like it's already too long and I have to have room for cuts. So we're going to have to go this way with that, which means on this direction, we're going to want to rip ourselves a piece that is that 17.625. So if we cut 17.625, we'll have a long section of that then we can cut into the next 2 parts. As long as this is, what did we say? We said 8.75 plus 17.125. So let's say 9 plus 17. We need to be at least 26 inches. And I've got about 30 here, 30 and a half. So that's going to be perfect. So I'll measure up from my best edge here. And we're looking for 17.625, 17 and 5/8. of an inch going up. So that is going to be, try to keep the tape measure straight, 17 and 1/2 plus 1/8. And I'll try to make it so the line is on the outside edge there. And then let's get at least one more point somewhere over here. 17 and 5/8 with my line to the outside edge. Looks good. All right, so now we can come in and try to connect these together. Was this a factory edge? I got burned by trusting the edge anyway, or my square is not set up square. So we'll just line up these two lines. And mark down. That looks pretty good. I think I hit the lines close enough. Again, with this one, you don't have to be perfect, but just checking. And when I'm checking here, I'm not checking to see if like I nailed it. I'm off by about 1/16 of an inch on this side. I'm just checking like if I'm in the ballpark. Did I get it like close to right? Did I mistakenly mark 18 instead of 17 inches or whatever? All right, so this we would rip down. And after we rip this down, then we would basically be able to have one piece on one side, one piece on the other side, and we would be good to go. So on this side, on my clean side, I'm going to do the bottom, so that combined piece. I think this piece is slightly more important. So since I have two factory edges here, I'm going to put that piece in this area because it'll be a little easier to line it up when we build it. And I think where the ramp ends up, the bottom ends up, is a little bit more important. So this is 17.125 inches in. So 17 and 1/8 inches in is what we're going for. So if we do our best to get straight on the tape measure, 17 and 1/8 right there. Come over here, 17 and let's line it up on the F's of the writing because those should be in the same place. 17 and 1/8. All right. Let's mark that up. Okay, last check should be about 17 and 1/8. Yep. Yep, that one's a little long, a hair long. That's fine. All right, this is going to be our, when all is said and done, this is going to be our SKB 26004. Okay, and then we can mark our last piece in the space that we have left here. Our 26006. We already know the width is right because it's the same width as the other one. We can just 17.625 verified. And then length for this piece is 8.75 inches. Now, you do not want to measure from this line because, again, when we cut this line, we're going to lose some material. It's going to change the size. But if I measure from this edge, nothing's going to happen, right? We can do the rip, do one cut, do two cuts, and then we'll be good to go. So we're looking for 8.75 inches in from this edge here. I think if we're lined up on the edge of the material, that should be pretty good. 8.75, 8 3/4, 8 3/4 inches right there. And then we'll do the same thing over on this side. 8 3/4 right there. Let's line them up. Okay, just check really quickly. 8 3/4, 8 3/4. Yep. All right. We can label this one now, which is SKB 26006. All right, so this is going to go there. This is going to go there. These two are going to go here. And looks like we have about this much extra room left. Definitely, I don't think there's any way you could possibly have fit also the belly pan on this. So, all right, we're in good shape. Let's get rid of, I guess we'll make the side ones first. So let me move this out of the way, get some saws, come back, start cutting. All right, we are ready to start cutting. I am going to be using a circular saw. If you're doing a circular saw, more teeth on your blade, better for the thin plastic. but you can get away with a bunch of different stuff. If you have a bandsaw, you can run this through the bandsaw. I'm lucky, right, because I already have this piece kind of chopped off, so that I could run through a bandsaw. It would work out okay. If you have a table saw, table saws will cut plastic really nicely too. You basically, any saw you have, whatever saw you have, use it. You got a jigsaw, use that. You have no saws, you got to use a hand saw. That's also fine. But I do want to kind of make these pieces a little bit cleaner. I know when we made the belly pan, I was like, I'm going to freehand it and see how good I can do. I didn't do bad, but you saw we did have to go back and do some extra grinding to make the belly pan fit on the robot. So in this case, I will try to do that, use this kind of as a fence to help me out. So the idea is if I want this piece, or I want this as a guide that I can run against with my saw, I need to have a mark for where this goes, the distance between the outside edge and the inside edge of my saw blade in order to make that work. So in this case, right, like if I move over the distance between here and the inside edge of the saw blade, then that will put me right on the line. And that distance on my saw is 1.5 inches. So if I make another mark on here, and we can, I guess we measure from this side, because this was the side that, that we cared about. So right now, this is 14 3/8 long, which I guess I can also check the drawing to make sure I'm not making stuff up. Yeah, 14 3/8. So if I subtract 1.5 inches from 14 3/8, that's going to be 13 3/8. And then 1/2 inch from that is going to be 12 7/8. So if we're at 12 7/8, that should be where we want our mark to be. And I want that mark to be right on the edge of my plastic here. So I'll go to 12 7/8. And I'll make it so that you should just cover up the line. All right, and we can just verify that. Is that actually 1.5 inches away from the cut line? It is. I believe that. All right, and then same thing on this side. Pull that out. Let's get right to the edge. And 12 7/8. And we're going to want to just cover up the entire line. Perfect. All right. Then we're going to look for a place to attach this and clamp it so that we can cut. And that means I need my cut line to be just off the edge of the table. I want it to be kind of as close as I can be to the table so it's supported, but obviously not where I'm going to cut the table. And then I think I'm going to remove the T part of this so I just have a flat piece of metal. If you don't have one of these, but you have the saw and you're doing something like this, you can always just use you got an extra piece of 1x1 box or whatever, that's going to work fine. So now I just have basically a flat piece of metal here. And I'm going to line it up so that that is on my lines. And if I remember correctly, it was, I want to just cover the line. So we'll get that started. Now, of course, I'm not clamping on the plastic, so it's popping up in the air. So I won't tighten that one all the way. We'll come back and tighten it after we get this one started as well. All right, that looks pretty good. That little bit of a bow in the middle, but that's okay. And that looks pretty right on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little nibble at the beginning to make sure I'm lined up in the right spot and I did my math and marking right. And if it looks good then on my cut line, then I'll go ahead and rip the whole thing. So yeah, I'm right on that line. The cut is right in the middle. It's going to remove basically all of the Sharpie mark, which on this one we wanted to do. On our diagonal cut, we want to leave the Sharpie line. Just how I marked it, yours will be a little different, right, depending on how you marked it. All right, so let's go ahead and just run this all the way across. And now we get more plastic snow. All right, unclamp that. kind of moving it out of the way a little bit because I don't want it to, I don't want the piece that I'm working on to sit on that. All right, now I can see visually this side is huge. So this was the side we marked and is ready to go. This side is going to need that extra line cut. I've got my dashes here as well from when I set that up. So next, we're looking to put this one on here. And again, if I do a mark that's 1.5 inches less than what's there, I should be able to put that guide on in order to help me get a nice straight cut here. So more marking, of course. This long side was 13.119. 13.119, which we said is basically 13 1/8. So if I need to take 1.5 inches off of 13 1/8, it's going to be 12 1/8. That's the 1 inch, and then 1/2 inch minus 1/8, so we have 3/8. So we've got to be 12 1/8, 11 5/8. So let's go ahead and see how that looks. We'll mark 11 5/8 here. 11.5 plus 1/8, and I'm going to put it on this side, so I'll cover up the Sharpie line. And then, like, is that 1.5 inches to my previous mark? Yes, I can do math today. All right, on the other side, I shouldn't have said that. Now I'm going to curse myself. All right, this one is 8.919. Good luck. So we said that 8.919 was like we could say 8.875 plus like a 1/40 of an inch, I don't know. So if we do 8.875 minus 1.5 inches, that'll be 7.75, and then it will be the 1/2 inch off of the 875. 875 is 7/8, so that's going to leave us with 2/8. Or 1/4. So 8 1/4 plus like a 32nd plus a little bit. So, all right. Sorry, 7 1/4 plus a little bit. 7 1/4 plus, like, I'll go in between those two lines. And then, again, we can verify by trying to measure, is it 1.5 inches away from our previous mark? It is not exactly. So let's see where I went wrong there. Oh, it's 8, yeah, so 8.9 minus 1.5 is going to be 7.9. It's going to be 7.4. Then we can add the 19 back on. So 7.419 is like, so 7.5 minus a little bit. So we'll go 7.5, and then we'll go in between that and the next line. And that is 1.5 inches. Okay. Looks good. Let's get our clamps on here. First one, just covering up that line is what we wanted. It's on an angle, so we just have to cover up the corner of the line. And then I'll probably have to check it again because rotating it here is probably going to mess it up. Just a little bit off now. Rotate that one in. That looks pretty good. We can do a quick check. Are we about 1.5 inches away from the cut line? Are we about 1.5 inches away from the cut line? I think I missed this side. This side might have rotated on me a little bit, or my mark was a little bit off too. Are we 1.5 inches? Or I picked the wrong mark of the two? All right, looks good. Let's make sure these are tight. All right, and we're ready to go. This time, I'm going to try to support this because there's a lot hanging out here, so I'll try to support this as I make the cut. If you have two people, probably having one person supporting and one person cutting is the way to go. I'll do the same thing though really quickly. Let's just take a small bite and see if it lines up. And we said I was aiming to leave the line, and it looks like I am just leaving the line. So I think this is in a really good spot. Let's go ahead and cut it all the way. All right. So this is, in theory, a finished piece. How did we do? So it should be 14 and so this way across. This way across should be 14 and 375, and that looks pretty good. And then this way should be 13. This is not 13. I'm measuring 15, and that's because I'm dumb, and the piece that we actually finished is the one that's still clamped under here. So let's make sure to measure the right piece. So this one should be 14 and 375 across, which it should be because that's what the other one was. Yeah, just a hair long. That's all right. And then on our long side, it should be 13.119 adjacent. We are looking at 13, and I am just over 1/8 of an inch. So again, I'm slightly long that way. That's probably fine. And the other dimension was that 8.919. It's also really hard to measure. Maybe if I do this way, it'll be easier to see where the corner is, probably more accurately. 8.919. I'm between the last line, the 16th, and the 9, so I'm maybe a 32nd long there. This is going to be just fine, no problems. Now, we have some options. We could, in theory, put these two together and mark it, and that's where we cut. Or we can go through and measure everything together. It just depends on how comfortable you are making sure the things are lined up. I think I'm pretty good about feeling like you need the edges to be lined up here. And then you just sort of slide it down until it might not be perfect, especially if your cut is a little wavy. But I feel pretty confident that this is a good spot to cut it, especially knowing I can be off by a little bit. Now, if your edge that you're working on is very wavy and not a clean cut down here, if this edge is very wavy, then I recommend doing the measurements and marking it in that way. But we can also double check. I mean, I kind of like the idea of having two that are the same. It's also really hard to measure to exactly the corner because I got a little bit of a burr there. But 13 and 1/8 is what we want to see, just under 13 and 1/8. And I'm just over 13 and 1/8, but I got this I think it's this plastic burr on the end here. If I break that off, I think we should get a little closer. Yeah, now it's just about 13 and 1/8. That seems fine. This side should be about 9, just under 9, and it is. All right, so I think we want to remove that line, and we'll be in good shape. Since that line feels pretty good, we can kind of do this cheating way of getting our position, which is I know I need to be 1.5 inches here to the inside of the line. That's 1.5 to the inside of the line. And then on this one, same thing. Well, things moved on me, so we might have to check it again. But 1.5 to the inside of the line. And now this side is 1.5 to the outside of the line. So let's just a little bit more there. That looks good. All right, and again, I'll do a quick test, make sure we're in the ballpark before I cut all the way through. That is going to remove the line. So that looks good. Let's go ahead and make the cut. Okay, I should have held the other side. That was what that little click and flap was at the end, but it did not do anything bad. It still cut. It just made a noise as it was falling away. All right. And now the check for these is, do we have two that are the same? And the answer is not exactly. So if I line up the sides and I line up the back, there is just a small lip on the bottom one that's sticking out that I can run my finger on. But this is close enough. If they look this close, you're good. They can even be more off than this, and it's going to be fine. And we measured the first one. We knew the first one was roughly the right length, so this one is also going to be pretty close. All right, so these two pieces are done. I'm going to clean up because I like having the plastic sit flat on the table, so I'm going to wipe this stuff off. We'll come back with the other piece of plastic, and we'll make our other two pieces. OK, we have our other piece of polycarbonate to make our other two pieces. First step, though, is we're just going to rip this down to the right size so we can have that 17.625 width that both of these pieces need. We can do the little marking up so we can get our track in place. Also, probably I like that second method where I just measure to the line to try to get that 1.5 inches. So we are at 7.625, right? No, 7.625. So 7 5/8 of an inch. 17 5/8 of an inch is what we're looking for. Yep, so what would that be? That would be 16 1/8 would be 1.5 inches less. So 16 1/8, I want to be right on the edge. 16 1/8. Wait, I'm going to cut this way. Yes, so 16 1/8, I'm going to just cover this line up. Down on this side. 16 1/8. And we're just going to cover the line up. And we are 1.5 inches on this side. This side, I think we're going to be just over 1.5 inches. No, pretty much right on. Just over 1.5 inches. But I think when I measured this, it was just a little bit long. So that might actually fix my first line being crooked. All right, let's get this on our side here where we can cut. Just off the edge of the table. All right, and we need to just cover the line. And just cover the line. Looks good. Clamp this side down, clamp that side down. Where's the line? Oh, yeah, it's just covering the line. All right. Oh, that clamp did not get table. That's better. All right, quick check here. 1.5 inches. Yep. 1.5 inches. Yep. So we are ready to go. I'm going to do that quick test. All right, so in this case, I'm leaving half the line. Are we good with that, or is that a problem? That seems good, actually. Seems about right. So let's go for it. Again, if it's off by 1/16 of an inch, it's like whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, let's make our cut. Pop it free here. Looks like we walked off the line a little bit, but that's what I was saying. I thought that line was maybe not quite perfect. So that might be good. Let's check. 17 1/8 or 5/8, yes. And on this side, 17 and, okay, we are slightly long on that side. Again, I'm not worried about it. It's going to be fine. Okay, next up, let's cut this one. And this one I think was 17 and 1/8 is what we're aiming for here. Yep. So again, if we were to remove 1.5 inches from 17 and 1/8, we're going to be 16 and 1/8. And then we're going to do a half from that, so it's going to be 15 and 5/8. Let's get right on the edge here. (15 and 5/8). And we're going to cover the line. All right, 15 and 5/8 on this side. I'll look to cover that line. Would you believe that's 1.5 inches? I would. I would. Cool. Let's get it clamped up. So it's just off the table there. And just covering this line. And just covering that line. All right, looks good. Triple checking. Okay, so this one, we're on the inside of the line. On this side, we are on the middle of the line. So I guess I'll just bump that back just a hair. Now it's more or less inside of line and inside of line. All right, let's test it. Yep, right on the line. It's going to just remove the line. Perfect. Let's make our cut. And pop them free. All right, so this should be, and this is, we're going to have to be careful with this later, right? Because this is 17 and 5/8 in one direction, and 17 and right on 1/8. That's good. We hit that one perfectly in the other direction. So this is not square. It looks like a square. It is not a square. So later on, we're going to have to make sure that we are careful with measuring it before we just attach it. All right, so this one's good. Let's get the drawing that goes along with it. Get that out of the way. And now we've got our last one to go. So this is the 2606. And this one is supposed to be 8.75 inches long. Or wide, I guess. Long, wide? I don't know. Depends on which direction you want to be your length and your width. All right, but if we want to remove 1.5 inches, we're going to be 7 1/4 inches. So let's go ahead and mark that. 7.25, where we would cover the line up. And 7.25 on this side, again, looking to cover that line up. Cut just off the edge of the table. Get our clamps going. So just covering the line and just covering the line. Double check, I don't know, we're triple checking at this point. I'm not sure what it is. This one is to the inside of the line. And this one is to the outside of the line. I think this one needs to go just a hair more. And this one just a hair less. I'm not convinced that that was necessary. All right. Now they are pretty close to straight. Let's do a test. Yep, that's right on. Let's do it. All right. And how are we feeling about this piece? Is it 8 1/4? It is 8 3/4. I hope, because that's what it is. Yeah, 8 3/4 is what we wanted. And it is, in fact, 8 3/4. It's just a hair long on this side, about a 32nd of an inch long. That's going to be fine. All right. All of our pieces are now cut out. Next step, well, let's get cleaned up again. We'll come back. We're going to deburr the edges, and then we got to drill holes. All right, next thing is we've got some sharp edges. Remember, there is that optional 1/4 inch radius on every corner. And for sure on these side panels, those are pretty pointy. Those are pretty sharp. So first thing I'm going to go through is use the deburring tool. You can use a file again instead, but just to run down each of the edges to pull that burr off from where we cut. Probably if it was on a factory edge, I don't need to do this, but I don't remember which one is the factory edge at this point. Also, I really like doing this because you get those really fun little curly cues out of it. So not going to hurt anything. Did I do the diagonal? I did already, yeah. At least it feels like I did. Okay. And then what you can do is, just with a file, usually you want a relatively coarse file for this, but you can just basically, you can also take this up to the grinding wheel and do it, but essentially you're just kind of going around the corner, changing your angle a little bit as you go, and that will give you just a little bit of a radius, and now that is not sharp. If going in an arc is hard, you can usually just go flat, and that also knocks it off enough to where you're not going to have a sharp edge. But we'll just kind of get each edge really quickly this way. And don't worry about what the actual radius is, again, because that note was basically just saying, hey, look, we're trying to take sharp edges off. This is optional. Do it if you want, or do it as much as you need to get nice, smooth, non-sharp edges. All right, that is one done. Speed through the rest of these here. And our corners. And be careful, if you hold it really close to the corner too, it's really easy to accidentally file your knuckle. So that's trying to hold a little bit farther away here. So I don't do that. You can also do gloves. You can also clamp this to the table. Probably putting it in a vise or clamping it to the table is really the best option if you want to be 100% free from scratches. All right, 2 down, number 3. One side, 2 sides, 3 sides, and 4 sides. Seems good. good. Happy with that. All right, that one's done. Last one. One side. This side was definitely the factory edge and was probably fine. And the last side. Onto those corners. All right, looks good. We will get those later. All right, now each of these pieces has a bunch of holes that we have to drill into it. I'm going to start with this one, with our SKB 26006. This is the back hopper panel. And I guess I can align this. I guess this side is a little cleaner. All right, I can align this in the direction that it is facing here. And basically what we need to do is we're going to do 4 holes along this side, 4 holes along this side, and then 5 holes along this bottom edge. And all of the holes are 0.250, so 1/4 inch. So get yourself a drill with the 1/4 inch drill bit. And you know, we have all of these, we have these dimensions, right, where it's a 1/4 inch in from the side. And then we can go all the way to the other side and 17.375 inches in. But really, it's a 1/4 inch back in from the other side. And because of the way this piece works and you know, whatever the size that we cut it might be a little bit off here and there. But because it's just going to be zip ties connecting stuff together, it is all right for us to just measure in from both edges a 1/4 inch and drill the holes. It doesn't have to be that precise. Now, for other things, sometimes when you're doing stuff, if you drill one hole, the distance from that hole to the next hole is the most important thing. So if you measure in from one side and in from the other side of your piece, and your piece wasn't perfectly exactly the length you thought it was going to be, then those holes are going to be either closer or farther apart than you wanted. So in some instances, that's very, very important. In this instance, it doesn't matter. So we're going to take kind of a shortcut here, and it's still going to work out fine. Instead of spending a ton of time doing long measurements and stuff like that, we're just going to, I'm going to set my calipers to 0.25, 1/4 inch. And I think even that bottom row is a 1/4 inch up from the bottom. So basically, if I mark a 1/4 inch this way, and this way, all of our holes are going to be on those lines. See if, I don't know if we need or not need the Sharpie here, but it's like something like this. All right, well, let's just go crazy. Why not? I need one of those like super wide Sharpies so I can just kind of paint it on quickly. I think if you're doing this at home, you probably don't need to color all of this in. Because I think if you just scratch it, you'll be able to see the scratched line in the plastic. I'm just not sure if that shows up on camera, so that's why I'm kind of like, we'll do an experiment. We'll save the last side for no Sharpie and see if you can see what I'm doing. All right, so 1/4 inch. Just go to the edge of the piece, and we're just going to, I can do it this way better. Oh, it's going to peel the paper bag. All right, well, that's pretty good. I think that probably was going to be visible. Maybe not. I don't know. Got a clean line there. Let's go this way. All the way along to the end. And now we'll find out if this is visible you without the Sharpie line. It is to me. I think, yeah, you can, there it is. No problem. All right, so all of our drill holes are going to be on that line. Now I'm going to get the snap punch, and we're just going to prep every hole. We're going to snap punch every hole, and then we'll just go around with the drill and pop them as we go. So if we start on the top of the piece, our first hole is going to be 1/2 inch down. So guess I'll go this way. That seems good. So basically, if I line up my tape measure with the edge here, because again, accuracy not super important. Like for 1/2 inch, I could use the calipers and do another scribe line. But instead, what I'm going to do is just go on the line at the 1/2 inch on the tape measure and pop that in. That's our first hole. Next up, we're going to 3.125 inches, so 3 1/8 inches. So 1, 2, 3 1/8, get right on the line. Snap that one in. Whoops. It hopped on me. All right. It's the one on the line. Okay, and then 5.75. So 5 3/4, right there. And then the last, the last one here is 8.375. So 8 3/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. All right, so that side is good. If I spin it around, we're basically going to measure from the other edge now. I'm still measuring from the same edge, but we're going to do the same thing. And you have to do this, by the way. Make sure that you are measuring, so the 0.5 and the 0.5 are on the same side. So my first hole I did was here. That was a 0.5. My first hole here is going to be a 0.5. Because on the other side, it's 1/4 inch. That last hole. I think it's not 1/2 inch. Yeah, it's a little under 1/2 inch for me. Maybe it is supposed to be 1/2 inch. No, it's definitely not supposed to be 1/2 inch. It's supposed to be a little bit less because we're at 8.375 and the piece is 8.75 out. So make sure you start on the same side you started on last time, and we're going to go to 1/2 inch. They are probably close enough that it works, but it is not the same. All right, and then 3.125, so 3 1/8. And then what was next? 5 3/4, 5.75. And then 8.375, 8 3/8. 8 1, 2, 3/8. Okay, those look good. And now across the bottom of this piece, we've got a bunch more holes to do. Okay, so they're 8 point. I think we did this to match the holes that would have been in a different place. So it is 8.13. I think it's actually 8.8125. But so that is 0.75 is 3/4 plus a 16th is 8125. A 16th is 0.6125. All right, so if we go from the edge, again staying on our 1/4 inch from the end line, we're going to go to 3/4 plus 1/16. So we go to the next line past 3/4. Assuming most tape measures should have that. Lines are going to be 1/16 of an inch. All right, and then we're basically adding 4 inches every time. So we go 4.75 plus a 1/16. All right, and then we do 8 plus 3/4 plus a 1/16. This one's 12, 3/4 plus a 1/16. And then the last one is 16 3/4 plus a 1/16. All right, 13 holes have been snap punched. We now have to drill 13 holes. I don't want to drill into the table. I guess I could put this on a block of sacrificial wood, but I think as long as we drill, sort of right off the edge of the table, we're going to be okay. So I'm going to pull this off the edge a little bit and then clamp it in place so it doesn't move on me. And one of the things to be aware of here, right, is like I'm very close to the table, so it's pretty sturdy. But if you were out in this area and trying to drill, it's going to bend on you. And so you got to be a little bit careful with that when you're drilling. If it bends, sometimes it'll catch the drill bit, which usually doesn't end up doing anything terrible, but it'll snag for a second and maybe the piece starts moving on you. So get it clamped up. Try to keep it close, but obviously we don't want to drill into the table. 1/4 inch drill bit. Every hole is going to be 1/4 inch. And across the bottom we have the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can pick up the first hole going up either side as well. So I'll start all the way on one edge, and this was one of our side holes here. And we'll go through, find the next one. And when you're marking, by the way, if you have some of these holes that weren't obvious when you were snap punching, if things were happening and maybe your plastic is peeling up so you can't see, your cover is peeling up so you can't see where it was, just go ahead and leave yourself like an arrow or circle it so it's easy to get back and find it. All right. And that one snagged a little bit. Okay. The biggest thing we're looking for here is just that you're not busting out the bottom of the plate. If you don't drill perfectly on the line, if you look at your holes and man, they wiggle, some's above the line, some are below the line, doesn't matter. As long as you have material on the bottom here and you haven't blown it out, you're fine. These holes, again, I mean, we're trying to be as accurate as we can, but it's going to work almost no matter what we do. All right, let's get some clamps on again. And we got to pick up the 3 holes on this side, and then we'll flip it around and get the 3 holes on the other side. And so what I'm running into problem here is this snap punch, I'm not able to kind of get the drill bit into that divot. Snap it a couple more times. 1/4 inch drill bit is a little bit big to find these divots. So again, because the accuracy doesn't matter, that's why I'm doing this. If we had to be in exactly the right spot, I'd start with a smaller drill bit first, just so you can really find the center of that snap punch. But in this case, snapping it a few more times got it to seat home there. And the last one. All right. Flip it up, get the other side. All right, here's the second one. This is my double snap punch area. Oh, but when we drilled the hole, it got rid of the second snap punch, so now nobody will ever know. Except all of you and anybody else who watches the video. All right. Let's check it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the sides. They look like they're in the same place across. I'm happy with that. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the bottom. I think that looks good. All of these holes have some burrs going on. Some of them are very bad, so we're going to have to deburr all of the holes. Guess I'll start here. Seems good. And you can obviously do this in whatever order you like. I like kind of doing all of one side of the plate and then flipping it over and getting all of the other side. And yeah, if you have the drill attachment deburring tool, you can probably bust through this really quickly. The thing you have to watch out for, though, is with that, you don't want to take too much meat out of these holes. So don't over deburr it. All right, this one, instead of drilling through the plastic, it just pushed the plastic out of the way. So I'll have to peel that back to get access to that hole. I mean, eventually we're going to take the cover off no matter what. So keep going. This one looks, there we go, we got it. All right, this piece is complete. Set that off on the side. And what do we want to do next? Let's do the other single one. Let's get our big one out here, 26004. This is our combined battery access panel and bottom hopper panel. All right, now this one, we gotta not, right off the bat, we gotta not get fooled, right? So I'm gonna make it match the dimensions here. So this one should be 17.625 across. This is my 17 and 5/8 direction, yep. And then the other way should be 17 and 1/8, yes. So right now, this is in the same orientation as this piece. And if it helps, you can add extra marks. For me, it's pretty easy because I got, my writing is right side up. So that's how I'll remember the orientation in case I move anything here. All right, and on this one's really interesting. There is a note copied over from the original drawing, which is the bottom 8 holes, basically, on this plate. We're going to match drill. We're going to drill those with the piece that they attach to. So they're going to eventually attaching to the intake ramp, and the intake ramp already has all the holes for us. So when we clamp this on the ramp in the right spot, we can just drill right through the ramp to make all those holes be in the right spot. So everything in this area, we don't have to drill. In fact, you should not drill. So that's the 3 holes on a diagonal, and then the 2 big holes in the center here. So all we have to do is hit these 3 on each side, and then these 4, 1, 2, 3, 5 across the top. And these 5 across the top, you'll notice those dimensions are the same as what we just drilled across the bottom of our back hopper plate panel, because obviously those holes need to line up so we can zip tie together. All right, once again, I believe everything is 1/4 of an inch in from the outside of the plate. So all of our holes are 1/4 of an inch in from the edge of the plate, which means we're going to go back to the calipers. We're going to set them at 0.25. I think I just undid it out of habit. There was no reason to undo it. All right. And what we need is a scribe across this edge at 0.25. I have to be on this side. All right. So without changing the orientation, if I move over to here, it will work. All right. So we'll scratch all the way along here at about 0.25. Scratch all the way along this side. Although we don't have to go all the way to the end. I don't know exactly where it's going to stop, so I'm going to go basically to the end. And then on this one, we also need to scribe 0.25. Whoop. I got off the line there to the end. OK. So we have all of our 0.25 lines now. I'm going to leave that at 0.25 because I have a feeling the last piece is also going to be that way. All right. So let's do these ones here on the top of the drawing because we just did those numbers, so that should be easy for us. Let's get this stretched out. Doesn't really matter which side 0 is. Look like they're going to be centered. So if we're off a little bit one way or the other, not going to be a problem. All right. So first one is that 0.813, which we just did this. So that is 3/4 plus 1/16 of an inch. And get on the line and do a couple of pops. All right, next one is, I think we just add 4 inches, right? So it's 4 3/4 plus one more line, one more 16th. Then the next one is 8, go to 3/4, and the next line is a 16th more. Then it's 12, 3/4 plus a line. All right, what is this? 13/16, I think, right? All right, and then it's 16 and 13/16, or go to 3/4 and then go one line past. Okay, that edge is done. Again, some of those might be hard to see, so you could, put a little mark on each of them so they're easy for us to find later. All right, now we're going to go down the side. So give this a little, I am going to rotate it. I'll rotate the drawing with it just so, I keep my orientations without confusing anything. And, all right, so from the bottom of the panel here, our first hole is going to be 4.392. All right, 4.392, huh? All right, well, 375 is 3/8. So we're going to go to 4 3/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, and then we're going to go just a hair past that because it is less than an extra 16th. So somewhere in that neighborhood. Again, it's just zip tie holes. They're going to line up. It's going to work out, even if you're off by a little bit. The next one is 11.033. All right, 11 and 0.33, that's about a 32nd of an inch. So you want to be exactly halfway in between 11 and the first line, which is 11 and a 16th. With the same, if you're off a little, no big deal. All right, and then the last one on this side, the third hole on this side is 16.375. So that is 16 and 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. And that one is right on the 3/8 line. Perfect. All right, I'll do a little like, it's here, it's here, it's here. Markers, and then we'll slide this up. We're going to do the same, basically the same set of holes on this side. So again, the first one, 4.392, which we said was 4 3/8 plus the tiniest little bit extra. Next one was 11 and roughly a 32nd, so we go between 11 and 1/16. And then the last one was 16 and 3/8. 16 and 1, 2, 3/8. Uh-oh, I did the double snap punch thing again. It's all right. It's going to disappear when we drill it. There, there, and there. Oh, I did it here too? I didn't even notice I did it here. All right, let me get the one on the line. Snap punched a bunch. All right. And same thing now. We're going to just start drilling. So let's get this just off the edge here. And get some clamps on it. First one here is, the first hole is way up here, so we can get out a little bit with this clamp. And then it's a long edge and there's room, so I'm going to throw one more clamp in the middle. Probably overkill. All right, let's start drilling them. All right, and now all of my double snap punches are gone forever. I'm gonna spin it around and do the other side. Same holes, same setup. just rotated, mirrored. So it's a little far out. There we go. All right, 1/4 inch holes again, here we go. Looks good. And I'll rotate. And we got the 5 holes across the bottom. You guys still like the idea of getting one clamp in the middle? Why not? Or middle-ish. All right, let's do these 5. Okay, that one walked a little bit on me. I don't know if that hole is in exactly the right spot. The good news is it's still going to work fine. And the last one here. Okay. Next step, deburr. Clean up those holes. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Spin it around, get the other sides. I think I did a better job of drilling these ones. They have less burrs. Maybe it was that middle clamp. I think again, when it bends too much and it snags, you'll end up with more of a burr there. So it is possible keeping it closer to the table and adding that extra clamp did make a difference. And the last one. All right, this one is ready to go. Put that one down. And now, our last one is our double. And the interesting thing with the double is, because they are basically the same, we can probably clamp these together and drill all the holes at the same time, which I think will, whatever, it'll save us a little bit of time. So if you are comfortable doing that, that's what I'm going to do. If not, it is also perfectly fine for you to, drill it and then just repeat the process. It's going to be the same thing twice. I would say if your pieces feel like the edges don't line up really well and you can't really tell where a good place to square them up is, you might want to do them individually. But again, just because of the way, this is the zip tie holes, you got a lot of margin for error here. So, all right, I'm going to just square up the bottoms. I know that means my angle is going to be just a little bit off. I'm going to want to mark on the piece that is shorter. So that is this one. So when I stand them up like this, my front one is just a little bit shorter than the back one. I want to mark on the shorter one because that means that I will never have less material to the edge, right? It's less likely that I oopsie drill through the edge of the piece. And then let's just get a few clamps going on here, and we'll just kind of throw a few on in a variety of places. Actually, before we clamp it, I'm going to take that smaller piece. Let's just mark it when it's a solo piece, then we'll clamp it together to drill, because the clamps will be way in our way if we try to do it all at once. All right, guess what? These are all 1/4 inch in from the edge, although on this one, can I see the scratches? It's a little bit harder, so let's go back to coloring class here. what's a 1/4 of an inch here? It's going to be right about there. All right, so I'll try to. That was really a straight line. That helps. It's got to be covered. And on this side, 1/4 of an inch is about that. That was reasonably straight. That was better. All right, that's enough. If we miss a little bit, we'll still be able to find the hole. All right, so we're going to scribe 1/4 of an inch along this edge. 1/4 of an inch down our diagonal edge here. Oh, it's right on the edge of the Sharpie line there, so that was a lot of wasted coloring. And then down this edge. Whoops, slipped. All right. Snap punch and tape measure. Let's get our orientation. Uh-oh. Well, that's unfortunate. All right, we'll just go with it. Once we drill the holes through, it doesn't matter which side you put it on, but obviously I'm doing the mirror of it. I'm doing the second side, but of course, like the hole goes through, it's gonna be in the same place. So we're just gonna have to make sure we do the long side when we mark, and then we'll do the short side when we mark, and it should be fine. So I'm gonna mark the long side here first. Starting on the flat edge, our first hole is going to be at 1/2 an inch in. 0.5. Next one is going to be 3 inches. Oh, we're getting good numbers this time. All right. And then 9.5. And then 12. All right, and then I'm going to do the short side. Again, we're looking from the top edge first. The flat edge, sorry, which is the top. And we want to be at 0.5 for the first one. All right, and then I already forgot. This side's different anyway, so that's good. This is 3.125, so 3 1/8 inches. Next is 5.75, so 5 3/4. And then the last one is 8.375, so 8 3/8. All right. Now, across the bottom, it looks like we are going to measure from the long edge in. And the first one is at 2 inches. So what we're going to have to do is basically slide this piece until the 2-inch line lines up with our 1/4 inch scribe line. Right? And then that is, so we're measuring straight in 2 inches, not along the diagonal, so straight in from the edge, and just find where 2 inches would be on that scribed line, and that is our first hole. The next one is going to be 8.375. So again, we want to try to keep it on the edge here. We're going until it's 8 3/8. So that is 8.1238. So right about there. Okay, and just try to keep the tape measure on the edge of the piece here. You want to try to keep it flat. So, because like obviously I can go on extreme angles here and that throws it off. So just keep an eye as you're doing this, like kind of just eyeball this distance. If the tape measure is down and flat, pulling it in gives you a little bit of straightening. But again, if you miss by a little bit, we're fine. All right, next hole is 13.625. So 13.625 is going to be 13, and 625 is 5/8. So half plus an eighth. All right, that is all the holes marked. So now I'm going to take my second one, try to line up my edges. I'm obviously using the table to keep that end lined up. And we're just going to sneak some clamps on so it doesn't move on us. All right, make sure it's as lined up as I can make it. And I do expect to have to move these clamps at some point, so I'm not super worried if they're blocking a hole or not. We're just going to get a couple of them going. I think really can't move much with the two, but I'll put a third one on here. I'm going to check the edges just to feel that they're, pretty close. Again, my pieces are not the same side, so there's a little bit of a lip here. There's a little bit of a lip on the underside here. That's okay. All right, now I think we're going to have to work on kind of the corner area of the table to drill our holes. And I'm going to add kind of a clamp close to where we're drilling as we go too. So let's see. And I can obviously move them more if I'm worried about drilling really far out away from the edge. So I guess if we look at doing kind of these three here, I can sneak one more clamp in closer like here. And then this one I can move closer as well. So as long as you always keep 2 or 3 of your clamps engaged, then the piece can't really shift on you, which is like what we're watching out for. So I'll get one back on there. And then let me see, I think I can just sneak a clamp here to hold it to the table. Might only be getting one of those this time because this edge is, it can fit over that clamp. Cool. All right. And I'm going to have to be careful. So this hole here, I can push down pretty hard and it's not moving. But out here, there's a lot of flex. So we're just going to have to be very careful when we drill those holes. And also, actually, I'm going to get one more clamp. Looks like it's going to be a big one. And I'm going to put that right on the corner here. Just that'll help the two pieces of plastic not spread apart. So the same problem we had when we were attaching the polycarbonate to the belly pan to the chassis. We want to make sure we have those clamps close so it doesn't spread and put material in between. All right, I'm going to start with the close hole here, which should be an easy one. Should be more or less the same as what we did before. All right, now this one out here, because this is so flexible, I'm going to kind of hang on to that clamp. Make sure my fingers are nowhere where the drill can end up. But I'll hang on to that clamp just to give it a little bit more support. Okay, and you might also want to push down less hard for these ones where it's flexing on you a lot. All right, that corner looks good. Let's see now. We've got how many on the diagonal side? There's 3 holes on the diagonal side. So I think we can get to both of those now. If I move this clamp kind of to here, you can slide in pretty close. I think I can get this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. We got a ton now that we can reach. try to clamp it to the table. And then we'll go for it. So this one is kind of the most out there. So I'll kind of support again out here to keep it from flexing too much. Cool. This one is pretty good. I think I want to bring my bonus clamp over here though, just to keep it from spreading apart as we do this edge. All right. Okay, onto here. And then this one's right next to the clamp, but I think we have just enough space. And then the last one in the corner. I think it's okay. They're kind of held together. Well, that one, they moved, but it's going to be all right. We're just going to have a bigger burr to clean up. All right. So you got 4 on this side. We got our 3 on the bottom. We have 2 on this side. I think the long side has 4 holes as well. So we got 2 more holes on the long side that we want to get to. So I think this clamp comes off. And we can put it back on somewhere around here. Also, this clamp is, once it's on, is going to hold them together as well. So we got 1, 2, and we already have the other ones done. So these are our last 2 holes to drill here. Whoops. There we go. All right, in the corner. And then right there. Undo, undo. And at this point, before you unclamp it, right, verify everything is done. Obviously, we could do it separately after, but I wouldn't clamp them back up together. So on the long side, I can even flip this over now so it matches up. On the long side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that lines up. On the short side, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a really messy hole. We'll have to clean that up later. And then we got 1, 2, and 3 across the bottom. Looks good to me. Let's go ahead and separate these 2 pieces. And now, we deburr all the holes. So some of these are really nice. I think where it was clamped together with the other piece, it was really nice because the sort of, if you clamp it tightly there, it is not the end of the hole, right? The end of the hole is in the other piece. So you have some clean, really clean ones here. And then we'll find the bad ones where I did not clamp it well. This one ain't great. And a couple more. All right, that one is finished. I have one more left to do. I'm going to deburr this one really quickly. We will clean up and we'll double check all of our parts to make sure they're ready to go on the robot. All right, you can, again, I mean, we've been checking the dimensions as we went all along. If you want to check your dimensions again, you can. But you should have a combined floor piece, that big SKB 26004 that's like 17 by 17, 17 and a little bit by 17 and a little bit. You should have 2 of the side panels ready to go, and then 1 of the back hopper panel, which has sort of that U shape of holes on it. we are going to use the side and back panels almost as the very last step for this robot. They're going to be put together when the ramp and the fuel mechanism are all in the robot. That'll be the last piece that gets attached there. But the floor here, the bottom panel, our combined bottom panel, is going to be used when we do our assembly of the intake ramp. That's going to be the next video. We'll see you then. But before we go, we're going to give a special thanks to Argosy. First, Cross the Road Electronics, West Coast Products, Aramco, and Team 302, Lake Orion High School, for hosting our studio.